Business Conference at the World Investment Forum, co-hosted by UNCTAD and the Family Business Network. My name is Alexis Duroy de Blicky, and I am the CEO of FBN, the Family Business Network. It's a real pleasure for us at FBN to be, for the first time ever, a strategic partner of UNCTAD for this important conference, working together, aligning on how to invest in a sustainable recovery. As I said, this is a first for us, and as family businesses become more public about their work, their activities, their operations, we're delighted to be able to do that in this context, together with our partners at the UN and at UNCTAD. I invite you to come to our sessions. We will be hosting several sessions in this virtual room number 7 during this week, and look forward to engaging with any of you as you discover our work, our activities, and our partnership. Now, I'm very happy to give the floor to our partner and friend, host, James Zan, Director of the Investment and Enterprise Division at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, and the strategic lead of the World Investment Forum. James?
Thank you, Alexis. Good morning, good afternoon, from wherever you are joining us for this wonderful event. Dear Fahad, dear Alfonso, Alexis, distinguished panelists, dear representatives of the WIF. It is my honor and a pleasure to welcome you to the World Investment Forum 2021. First, about a few words regarding the World Investment Forum. The UNCTAD World Investment Forum is the largest global platform for investment and development. The forum is a biennial event that facilitates dialogue and action on the key and emerging investment for development challenges. The forum offers the investment community a unique opportunity to shape the global investment environment in multiple dimensions and foster partnerships at all levels. The forum was established in 2008, and over the past 13 years, the forum has made a significant contribution to investment for development policymaking. The wide appeal of the forum has also provided a launchpad for key initiatives and partnerships. This 2021 World Investment Forum, its 7th edition, comes at a critical time for global investment and can help address the key challenges facing the investment for development community worldwide. Recovering from the COVID-19 crisis and building forward better will not be possible without reigniting investment as an engine of growth. We need a big push for investment in sustainable development and inclusive recovery. Towards this end, the forum will tackle the challenges and opportunities arising from the triple mega drivers: the new industrial revolution, the sustainability imperatives, and enhancement of economic resilience. Let me just highlight a bit of the 2021 World Investment Forum. The forum gathers investment stakeholders from more than 190 countries, with participants representing the full spectrum of upstream and downstream investment, thereby integrating sustainable development along the entire investment chain. Some highlights of the week-long forum that includes 3 global leaders investment summit. We had one today with a number of heads of states, and we'll have more heads of states speaking and number of CEOs of global companies sharing their insights on the global economy, investment, and sustainable development. We have 5 ministerial roundtables, more than 50 partnership sessions on a range of special topics, several parallel tracks in connection with the forum, including the Family Business Conference jointly organized by UNCTAD and the Family Business Network. We also have award ceremonies and the launch of new initiatives. Now, the partnership for the goals with the Family Business Network. This cross-board engagement with all the key players of the entire sustainable development, investment development chain is the core of our vision. It is the rationale for our World Investment Forum and for engaging with you, the family business community, and we are doing that at various levels. Family business, with its special nature of multi-generational vision and inherent concern for sustainability, are well positioned to benefit from and contribute to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. To guide family business as they embark on the sustainability journey, UNCTAD and the Family Business Network, in a first-of-its-kind partnership between the United Nations and the family business community, jointly developed a global initiative, Family Business for Sustainable Development. Now, the global UNCTAD Family Business Initiative, Family Business for Sustainable Development, there are some key components of the initiative. It includes, among others, the Family Business Sustainability Pledge, with over 330 signatories already of today, and it calls to action for more purposeful business model and a commitment to concrete, measurable contributions towards sustainable development. Second, the sustainability indicators for family business, a framework to guide and assess the implementation of and reporting on actions by individual companies and help spur sustainability considerations among business-owning families. And the third, global multi-stakeholder platforms to expand the reach and voice of family business while providing a safe space to engage, including at World Investment Forum, UNCTAD's World Investment Network, in addition to various UN fora. We are delighted that the Family Business Network accepted our offer to jointly organize the first Family Business Conference in conjunction with this year's World Investment Forum, and to contribute to the multi-stakeholder discourse on how to advance the sustainability agenda. A coming out for family business. It is my pleasure to open the first joint UNCTAD Family Business Network Family Business Conference at the World Investment Forum 2021. I hope that this becomes a standing feature in our World Investment Forum. As we have taught us, family business thinks in generations, not in quarters. And this aligns with our mission at the United Nations. Before I end my speech, I wish to thank Fahad, Alfonso, Alexi, and also our team at UNCTAD, Christian, Beth, and our family business network colleagues that we've been working very hard over the past year and a half to make it to this initiative to fruition. And we'll continue our partnership along the road to the future for sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, James, for your opening statement and your kindness and your partnership in this important initiative. Yes, we are coming out. We want to be more public about what we do, and that's why I want to say a few words on who we are, the Family Business Network. We are the world leading family business organization. We've been working as a private network for almost 4 decades, representing 4,000 business families worldwide, gathering almost 20,000 members now, and enshrined, locally rooted in about 32 member associations present in 65 countries. Every family business comes from a village, as we like to say, and that's why it's important for us to be not only a global network, but also a local, vibrant business community. And it's now my pleasure to pass on the floor to the chair of our organization, Fahad Forbes, who will give you a bit of a wider perspective on the importance of family business in society and in the economy. Fahad.
Thank you very much, Alexi. Thank you, James. We are delighted to partner with UNCTAD in this very important conference. As Alexi mentioned, I would just like to begin this discussion just by giving you a brief overview of the family business ecosystem and why family businesses matter. First, about two-thirds of businesses worldwide are family owned and managed. They employ about 60 to 70% of the workforce globally, and they generate 70 to 90% of global GDP. The ratios vary in different regions of the world, but in every geographic region, family businesses as a whole dominate global economic activity. Hence, given their sheer number and the number of people they employ, family businesses can have a major impact in any significant global initiative. For example, such as addressing the ESG issues as part of what businesses need to do towards making progress on the UN Sustainable Development Goals that we are discussing here at this forum. I'd like to now talk about a few key characteristics of family business. First, the long-term view. Family businesses are long-lasting. An often mentioned statistic, and it's sometimes misquoted, it comes from a 1980 study of manufacturing companies in Illinois in the United States, is that few family businesses, the statistic states that, few family businesses survive beyond 2 or 3 generations. And beyond that, they either split or fail. What the study actually stated is that 1/3 of firms made it through the second generation. It further stated that 13% made it through the third generation, and about 4% make it even beyond. With each generation considered to be 30 years, it implies that 1/3 of the family firms lasted 60 years and 13% lasted 90 years. Now that's a pretty long time for any business. Family businesses therefore have continuity in both ownership and management, and they usually adopt a long-term view. And as James mentioned right at the start, family businesses, we think in generations rather than in quarterly achievements. Second characteristic is philanthropy. Many family firms have been involved with philanthropy for generations. Philanthropy being part of the firm's DNA, thinking beyond just the bottom line is something family firms do. And so, delivering on the UN SDGs and the focus on sustainable solutions is different only insofar that the thinking beyond profit is also aligned with the core business of the firm and/or the purpose of the firm. And as a result, it becomes more effective and also sustainable than just philanthropy for the sake of philanthropy. Third, a sense of purpose. Family businesses usually have a sense of purpose that goes beyond just financial success. Reputation, legacy, and citizenship are often a part of that purpose for why the firm exists and what the family business stands for. So as a result, shareholder financial return is usually not the only measure for success and the motivator of the firm's and the family's activities and actions. Fourth, in family business, we are generally adept at managing paradoxes. We deal with paradoxes all the time. And the ultimate paradox is really having to manage both family and business. The success factors for managing family and business are often different and sometimes conflicting. Tradition and innovation and change is a paradox. Liquidity and growth is a paradox. Equality and meritocracy, and these are what we have to balance constantly in family business. So it's not just a question of successfully managing one or the other, but managing both family and business. And as John Ward, a professor of family business, has stated in his book, Family Business as Paradox, if we focus on just managing the family, the business will suffer and potentially fail. And if we focus on just the business, as many owners do, the family suffers, does not grow in competence, and the ability of family members to govern themselves. This inevitably leads to conflict, family conflict, and eventually to disintegration of the family and the business. So the ability to deal with managing paradoxes is therefore a key skill and a necessary factor for the longevity of the family business. And there are many families who do this successfully, including you will hear from three of them later today, and this results in both thriving families and successful businesses. Being able to manage paradoxes makes it easier to pursue both profit that's necessary for the long-term sustenance of the business and purpose. It is therefore not a matter of pursuing profit or purpose, but achieving both profit and purpose. And so pursuing sustainability and as a part of an ongoing for-profit business activity can come naturally to family business. I'd like to just say a few words about family business and sustainability. As you will hear from Alfonso and our panelists subsequently in this session, we at FBN, through our partnership with the UN, are actively engaged in getting our members to measure, report, and improve their performance on key sustainability development indicators. Our objective is to have more and more of our family businesses join this journey to improve their individual firms' performance on the SDGs, actually the sustainability development indicators, which is in line with the SDGs, and to do it in a structured, organized manner, and also encourage them to share their learnings, learn from others, and in the process, we can make a significant tangible contribution as a family business community as a whole. There's an African proverb which we often refer to in FBN. If you wish to go fast, go alone, but if you wish to go far, go together. There's clearly a long way to go, and we've only just begun to work on this important initiative in an organized and structured manner. But the first steps have been taken, and if we work together, family businesses can and will make a difference. Thank you. I'd like to now pass it on to Alfonso to tell you more about the initiative. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you, Farhad, and thank you all for joining us today in this exciting project. I'm excited to share some thoughts on why I believe family businesses are uniquely positioned to lead change towards a more responsible capitalism and contribute to sustainable development goals. First and foremost, I know both from personal experience and through my colleagues at Family Business Network that the sustainability agenda is deeply aligned with the values of family business. Both as owners and operators, we focus on the long-term value creation because our business also represents our legacies and impact the lives of millions of people and generations. As we say, every family business comes from a city or village and has a close responsibility with the community. As Farhad Forbes just indicated, we represent a scale that cannot be matched by any other collection of firms. This staggering responsibility to the business is the way of doing business on the right way. Through our efforts in quality, job creation, fair contracts, and ethical investments and practices, family business have continually earned the social license to operate and made a profound and positive influence on society across generations. Yes, we know more can be done and will be done. This is why Family Businesses Network and its members first embarked on a sustainability journey over 10 years ago with the creation of our pledge for a sustainable future and Polaris, our sustainable initiative. Collectively, we have now shared best practices and strive to a better understanding of the positive impacts we can achieve when we work together towards a common goal. To make this more concrete, I'd like to share an example from my family. At Equatoria, one of our operational family businesses, we have embarked on an ambitious sustainability strategy with far-reaching goals on recycling, water and sanitation, women and youth empowerment and health. And just as important, we have committed to track our progress and report transparently. In this context, our new joint initiative at FBN with United Nations, Family Business for Sustainability Development, focuses on expanding capabilities on sustainability reporting and encouraging higher levels of transparency for all family businesses, no matter where they are on their sustainability journey. I'm proud to say that my family business has signed the pledge and committed to tracking our progress and assessing the impact of our business practices in a transparent manner, using the relevant sustainability indicators for family business, as jointly established by FBN and UNTACT. And as James then mentioned before, we have established this new indicators platform available to all family businesses of all sizes worldwide, which will be launched later this week at the World Investment Forum. It will help owners and operators to better manage their business and reach higher levels of sustainability standards. But as with any good entrepreneur, we will also continue to look forward and ways to continuously to improve our efforts, take them to the next level. We want to lead the way in accelerating a change towards better business practices. For now, I invite you to join and sign our joint pledge, which you can find on the homepage of our initiative. There you will also find many resources, including case studies, and we hope this will inspire you to pursue your own journey of reporting and transparency. I thank you all again for joining us today, and I look forward to hearing from the inspiring speakers and learnings of the new best practices during the Family Business Conference of the WIF. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfonso, for your inspiring words and for your call to action for all of us, whether family business or not, to join this groundbreaking initiative. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce you three members of our network, three members of business families who are actively promoting this change and who also prepared to talk about it publicly, which is exciting for us. You know, family business have like to say, as we say in French, vivons cachés, vivons heureux, let's live happy, let's live hidden. But we know now that we have to tell our stories in a more convincing way while staying humble, because we don't always have all the solutions. And in this regard, we have chosen to use a well-known nomenclatura, ESG, environment, social, and governance, and illustrate each of these areas with three very concrete cases. And I'm just going to briefly now introduce to you the panelists so you can get to know them, and then they will each tell you a few words about how, as individuals, they are active in those spaces, and how also with their organizations and their family businesses, they are working on the environmental space with Isabel. As we know, the climate crisis is with us and we need to tackle it. On the social area, And for that, COVID has been a revealer and an accelerator, and Meher will tell us about what they do in India. And on governance, because at the end of the day, governance is what matters if we want to take the right decision. And Antoine Mayo will talk to us about how his family is looking at ethical governance. So the first speaker is Isabelle Hoffman. Isabelle works at the Capitals Coalition, which is a collaboration redefining the way decisions are made by integrating not only finance as a value, but nature, social, and human as capitals. She's also active on the board of an organization called Tour du Vala, a wetland research institute, and is increasingly aware and looking at also her own family business from the Roche family, and we'll tell you a few words about that. We also have with us Meher Pudumji, who's been one of the leading family business people in our network in India, a co-founder on the network, a well-known entrepreneur and leader in her family business, Thermax, an energy and environmental solution company in India. She's based in Pune, close to Mumbai, and she will tell us on how her family, her company, together with many others, are looking to find solutions to this migrant workers and informal workers crisis in India. And finally, Antoine Mayo. Antoine is a well-known family business leader. After working for many years at Danone, he joined his family business and really helped create and develop what they call the Affectio Societatis movement group infrastructure, Mullier family. He was also a business person, being on the board of Pimki, one of their new companies, very successful. And he helped also create and pass on the entrepreneurial spirit of the family with the creation of Creadef, one of their entrepreneurial vehicles at the Mullier family. He's also himself a father and grandfather and a family man, and we will hear from him on ethical governance. So Isabelle, the floor is yours. Welcome, and thank you for contributing to this session.
Thank you very much, and hi everyone, and thanks for having me. I'd like to start, if I may, to add a little bit more about myself than what Alexis has just presented. I'm an ecologist by training, and I have a very deep passion for our natural world and how we as people exist within that system. I work every day and find purpose in exploring different ways that business can create value for society, but also operate within planetary boundaries. Basically, I just really believe that business is the solution quite as much as it is the problem. I also happen to be part of the 5th generation of a family business, though I'm not actually active in the company at this point in time. So I work at the Capitals Coalition, and this is a global collaboration that has as a shared ambition that by 2030, the majority of business, finance, and government are including the value of natural, social, and human capital into their decision making. Maybe it's a generational thing, but I really can't imagine working in any other field than sustainability. We're currently failing to address the key challenges of our time. That's nature loss, climate change, and rising global inequality. And this is really largely because our current economic system is completely failing us at the moment, and it places a disproportionate importance on a very narrow definition of value creation and fails to value the often less tangible benefits that we are provided by people and by nature. If we really want to transition to a sustainable future, we need to be redefining what it is we mean by value. So traditionally, value in a business would only be considered in terms of financial profit or money. But in fact, capital describes any resource or asset that yields a value to people. That includes nature, so water, soil, the air we breathe, the species that we depend on. It also includes the shared norms and values and understandings that we have within our society, which facilitates cooperation between different groups. And it also includes the knowledge and the skills of us as individuals. And this is what we would call natural, social, and human capital. Now, on a basic level, the capitals can be thought of as being quite similar to a societal investment portfolio. If we liquidate our underlying stock, so our capitals, we're going to diminish its ability to create value into the future. But if we're managing our capitals and our stock effectively, we can generate returns, and we're also protecting that underlying stock so that we can continue to do it going forward. So understanding our relationships with the capitals, the impacts and the dependencies that we have on them, really provides a clear business case for their protection. So a rice producer that's depleted their natural resources, their natural source of irrigation, for example, they're not going to be growing rice for very long because they don't have any water left. So understanding their dependency on water means that they can address it. Maybe that would be through a more efficient water use strategy, or they could do some direct rehabilitation of aquifers. And that's going to be a benefit both to their own business, because they're going to be able to last for longer, society, because they're not contributing to that impact on water resources like they were before. And that's what we call, very simply, a capitals approach, identifying and measuring the value that we receive from nature and people, and then using that information to make better decisions. The approach is fairly intuitive. Businesses impact and depend on the capitals, and this relationship can result in costs and benefits, which in turn make clear the various risks and opportunities across operations. So if we understand this relationship, we can make decisions based on a fuller picture, and that will naturally lead to a more sustainable business model. It might sound like a really obvious thing to do, but in actual fact, thinking about impacts and dependencies in this way can really be a watershed moment for companies, because they're often not aware at all of what hidden factors directly underpin their success. So this very robust and replicable information that comes out of valuing capitals has lots of different applications. It can be used to compare different options for investment. It can inform your disclosure and how to set your different targets. It can calculate your total impact and input into an environmental profit and loss account, for example. And that's just to name a few examples of why we would want to use that value of capitals. And the reason is because this valuation really provides a common language, one that can be used by ecologists and by business people, and one that translates your capital from silent contributors to a company to really key and core to your business decision making. So the capitals approach looks at these four capitals, but it's important to understand that there is a hierarchy among the capitals. So nature underpins social and human capital, because if we don't have nature, we don't have anything, and we definitely don't have people. So with this in mind, I'm now going to focus on the E in ESG, because that's what I've been asked to do. And that is what we call natural capital. And I'm going to share an example from my family's company of how they've incorporated its value into their core decision making. So at Roche, part of the environmental targets that are set internally are to halve the impact of operations and products between 2019 and 2029, and to work closely with our suppliers to help them to do the same. So we've developed lots of different impact measurements that look at emissions, water use, solid and liquid waste, and there's lots of information available on that. But I'm going to focus in on one of our targets, which is to phase out all refrigerants which are either harming the ozone or have got a significant greenhouse gas emission by 2030. So the difficulty here is that conventional types of refrigeration have this very high impact on the environment, but natural refrigeration causes significant safety risks for the drugs that need to be kept at very cold temperatures. So Roche started looking into the feasibility of a new synthetic refrigerant, and they looked at a bunch of different natural capital indicators to decide that they were going to refurbish all of the biotech manufacturing to this safer and more efficient type of coolant. So not only does this reduce the impact on natural capital and it ensures a safe product, but it also has a significant cost reduction of 200 million Swiss francs for the company. And this is just one example of the benefits that you can gain as a business when you look carefully across your operations and your value chain. So by measuring and valuing the impacts and dependencies on natural capital that were associated with refrigeration, Roche were able to make a more complete decision, which benefited both the company, but also society at large. So Roche continues to assess impacts and dependencies on nature. It's incidentally using a framework developed by the Capitals Coalition called the Natural Capital Protocol. So by framing these issues in the language of business, Roche and hundreds of other organizations that have applied the protocol are able to identify these win-win scenarios where they're delivering value for nature and people while also benefiting the company's bottom line. So if we just go to the next slide, I'll just wrap up that Roche's journey in sustainability started 20 years ago in the form of a risk advisory committee that was set up following pressure from shareholders. It was far from a core business issue, far from a core business thing. Today, in Roche and in many other companies, these issues are no longer a tag-on discussion. The materiality of our impacts and dependencies along the value chain is increasingly being recognized as very much key to decision-making. The moment has really passed when companies could think about nature just if they wanted to. 2021 has seen some of the world's most powerful intergovernmental bodies and national governments commit to putting the value of natural capital at the heart of their economic planning and financial decision-making. And the pressure is now on for businesses that they should be making nature core to their operations. And if we really want to have any hope for the future, we need to be accelerating this transition and moving towards a new normal where all businesses must be valuing this contribution of nature into their business. That's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Isabelle, for this passionate presentation and also very business-like. You're calling us to measure decisions based on incomplete information, as we can see here on your slide. And one of the key elements of our new pledge with UNCTAD is that we pledge to measure our impact, track our progress, and report transparently. And it's true that at Roche, being a listed company, you've started to be on that journey some decades ago. But what we want to do is also invite the wider community of business families who are private and who might not have had the organizational structure to do that measurement and that reporting to join that. And we'd be very happy to launch this new indicator platform later on this week at the World Investment Forum with UNCTAD. We'll come back to that, but for the time being now, the word and the floor is on to you, Meher Pudumji from Thermax in Pune.
Thanks a lot, Alexi. Thank you for inviting me. So I'm going to talk about the S part of ESG, which is the social part of ESG. So I want to first of all set the context for all of you. India is home to about 270 million non-agrarian informal workers, many of whom are already engaged in industry. They have no written contract, no local documentation to establish their identity in the city. So that makes them untraceable or invisible. And therefore, they are not even eligible for the public distribution system or government schemes. Like, for example, they're not eligible to rations, no public housing, no public health care, and not even local voting rights. So they are exposed to very grave risks of injury and accidents at the workplace. And nearly half of all their small earnings are spent on food and fuel. The rest is sent back to their families. And with these low wages, they are in constant debt, and then they are at risk of becoming bonded labor. So when COVID hit India last March, I don't know how many of you all saw this on television, but there was a sudden lockdown. Millions of migrant workers were forced to return home on foot in order to save themselves and their kids from starvation. Since all the public transport came to a standstill, so many people died along the way. This shocking state of our informal workers has existed for decades. COVID has only brought it to the surface. So a few of us, like-minded companies and individuals, Farad included, came together and we asked ourselves, what do we allow our cities to become? That of extreme privilege and extreme poverty? It all felt completely wrong. We also thought that before we point a finger elsewhere, why don't we do something concrete for our own labor, at our own manufacturing locations, at our sites, as well as our key vendors whom we have an influence over. The world, including India, is becoming very thoughtful, as Isabel said, towards our environment, which is wonderful. Can we become as thoughtful towards our fellow human beings? We've made a very modest beginning with about 6 to 8 corporates across Pune, Mumbai, and Ahmedabad, partnering with an Indian NGO called Dasra and a few other grassroots NGOs who have been working on these migrant labor issues for decades. And we started an initiative called the Social Compact, or we call it SOCO, to ensure safe, equitable, and productive working conditions for our informal labor. Thank you, Alexi. So we've set some standards on 6 human-centric desired outcomes, which we've just set voluntary for ourselves. This includes the first, which is wages. So here we're not talking about just minimum wages, but living wages that enables life of dignity for all our informal workers and their families. The second is health. How do we ensure health, social security cover, and grievance redressal mechanisms to enable these informal workers and their families to weather a crisis with dignity and adequate support? The third is access to entitlements. This is government entitlements through worker registration. How do we help them to get an Aadhaar card? Aadhaar card is a proof of identity and address in India. How do we help them to get access to medical aid, to insurance, to provident funds? The fourth is gender. How do we ensure gender equality in pay treatment as well as opportunities for all our people? The fifth, safety. How do we maximize safety against life-altering accidents? The sixth is the future of work. How do we upskill and provide growth opportunities to our informal labor? So our own company, Thermax, is one of the 4 Pune-based companies that volunteered. We started with a guided self-assessment of our practices at one of our factories, a couple of customer sites, and a few vendor locations. The SOCO team then made visits to these facilities for a detailed one-on-one discussion to identify certain gaps that we have, as well as opportunities for labor practices. The whole idea of the collaborative is not one of competition, but how do we share best practices amongst each other? So we have enabled our 8 business units to track and record their compliance against 4 of the 6 outcomes, with key actions within our 8 manufacturing locations and a few sites. We've taken a time frame of 60 days and some, of course, a bit longer. At our company, it started with the family, but very quickly moved on to the CEO, HR, and the board will soon be reviewing progress. we soon came to realize that this is not an HR exercise. It's an exercise where every individual within the company needs to be involved, whether it's purchase, whether it's our supply chain, quality, projects, construction, O&M, everyone. And I'm very happy that a number of people have already bought into the movement so that over time, we can integrate the SOCO standards and make it business as usual. We really believe, all of us on the SOCO journey, that a responsible business is equal to a successful business. A few of the SOCO companies have also started involving their own supply chains or vendors through the start of worker facilitation centers to enable workers to get registered, to access these government entitlements that I spoke about, to create awareness on primary healthcare, safety, financial inclusion, and so on. Next. So Dasra have put together a dashboard, and you can see this dashboard with the 6 outcomes to measure collective progress across each of the 6 indicators, which we will all voluntarily keep tightening over time. For example, percentage of workers above the minimum wage. How many people are being paid overtime? How many number of accidents, near misses? So we'll keep a track of each of these outcomes so that we keep improving on them. Next slide. So over the last year, the social compact has grown to over 40 companies. This includes supply chain companies too. We're impacting over 23,000 workers. We've made inroads into the country's 2 apex industry bodies, which is CII as well as FICCI. Number of events we've done to mainstream and integrate many more into the social compact. This movement actually aspires to cover over 1 million informal workers spread across the ecosystem of 150 companies or more in India. And I'd like to end with a beautiful piece that I read somewhere. I don't remember where, but it goes like this. Business has to be based on growth and profits, else it will die. But if business is solely based on growth and profits, then also it shall die, for it no longer has a reason for its existence. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meher. And it's impressive to see that in just a few weeks, a few months, you have been able to mobilize several companies to join you and already start to track progress and report. And this shows that it is possible to do. Also, it doesn't require years to do when there's that purpose, that's willingness to do it. And you described to us on how the family decided, and very quickly the rest of the organization followed. And I think that's one of the peculiarities we have at family businesses. We have the family with its vision, with its purpose, with its sense, and can leverage and mobilize and accelerate the change by leveraging its people and its assets in the direction. So thank you for inspiring us on this and inviting all Indian families and businesses and people on this session to join you and to reach out to you, to Dasra, to FBN India, and to CII to learn more about this project. Now, Antoine Mayo from the family on the GESG and how his family is looking and implementing ethical governance. With a bit of background and history, Antoine, I think, first.
Hello, everybody. Look, after Isabel, who talked about about environment, sorry, and after Meher, who talked about social, I'm very happy to talk with you about this last letter about the G, which is my question: how can ethical governance lead to ethical practices? I will try to illustrate what Farhad said about this paradox of how to manage both family and business. I will not talk about our businesses. I will mostly talk about my family. First of all, let me introduce this family. We were founded in 1905 by my grandfather, founder of a small wool spinning company. He didn't want his children to live under his shade. So he was convinced that the best thing he could do for the common good was to help them launch their own businesses, but inside a common shareholding ecosystem. So that's what he said, so that they could do better together than each one of them separately. My family is presently shareholder, please, Alexis, shareholder of a large range of unlisted retail companies such as Auchan, Leroy Merlin, Decathlon, and many others. Our family is also keen on maintaining its entrepreneurial spirit by adding new companies. For instance, in new energy, go ahead, Alexis, or new food production or elder people care, stemming either from existing companies or created from scratch by family and non-family members. Today, we are 800 plus family shareholders, all descendants of my grandfather. Our spouses are also shareholders with the same rights and the same duties. To these family shareholders, we add our 600,000 employees who have been shareholders for more than 45 years. This ecosystem is a federation of autonomous companies, with each company having its own board, its own vision, its own human and finance resources. Chairman and board members for each company are nominated by a family council of 7 members, elected every 5 years by the 800 plus shareholders. Sorry, back Alexis. The Affectio Societatis, which I could translate by family caring and involvement, is strongly developed by a large range of activities proposed to all family members, such as technical and management training, learning expeditions inside the family businesses around the world, general assemblies twice a year, working sessions and team buildings, family newsletters, conferences, etc. Now, the question I would like to answer: how can an ethical governance lead to ethical practices? We're not perfect, we just try. Please, beyond the new facts I just gave you, let me show you with 7 examples how our specific family behavior, how our specific family governance helps us lead to ethical practices. Please take what I will tell you now just as an example of what enterprising families may do. It is obviously not a model, but just an example. And obviously, we are not perfect. We just try. First of all, employees are shareholders alongside with family shareholders, which means the frontier between shareholders and employees is thinner than in a normal company. It means employees benefit from the long-term value creation and not only the family shareholders. In other words, it means that the whole community, including both family members and employees, are aligned with long-term issues. Our second specific behavior is that as a family, we have been very much inspired by where we come from, particularly by the influence of the so-called social Christian doctrine. This doctrine was settled by Pope Leo XIII in 1893. What do we take home from this doctrine? Mostly that what is fair can be efficient, and what is efficient can be fair, as opposed to some sort of Manichaeism that would oppose, mostly in France, on the fair side, workers or non-profit organizations, and at the opposite, on the efficiency side, private-owned companies and their shareholders, etc. One example, when we launched employees shareholding in 1976, it was obviously fair because it allowed employees to benefit from the share value increase along the years. And it was efficient because employees are motivated to give their best so as to let the company be performing. A third point about our specific governance practices. We are convinced never to leave a leader feel lonely in taking decisions, neither in difficult times nor in success. Each business unit leader meets a board of 3 to 6 people 5 to 8 times a year. This board acts as a mirror, showing the tiny bits of blue sky above their head in hard times, for instance, during the COVID. And when things are going well for the company, the board is more demanding by trying to identify weak signals announcing difficult times in the next years. And obviously today, all about what we're talking right now about sustainability is a true issue for our boards. Our fourth specific behavior is about our family shareholders who are strongly involved in the business. They can be employees inside one of our companies, but with no specific right. They can be board members so that they can push on long-term issues when usually board members might only push on short finance issues. They can decide to launch a new business. For this, the family will advise them for the best and invest capital if needed. And they can just be basic family shareholders, provided they keep close to the business by training themselves, by visiting the companies, by having a say in focus groups or general assemblies in the present issues of the world. As basic shareholders, they are invited to participate to our family vision process, which occurs every 7 years, where we always answer the same question: why, what for, and for whom do we want to stay together within the next 20 years? I can tell you that during our last vision process, a great deal of our discussions were about social, environment, and climate issues. And I can tell you, it was hard talking between the generations. In this regard, we encourage activists inside the family. For instance, there is presently a large group of family shareholders involved in environment and social issues. They express themselves in our family general assemblies twice a year to put pressure on our managers about these issues, just as if they were normal activists. Our fifth specificity is that we have our own stock exchange, where shares can be exchanged between us but at a fixed price with no bargaining and only once a year, so that there is no possible speculation. It also means that the managing director is not obsessed every day by the share value, by the bottom line. They can concentrate on long-term issues. Our sixth specificity is that our model is based on subsidiarity, which means decisions are to be taken as close as possible to the ground. This subsidiarity principle is also connected to the Christian social doctrine, which tells us that all human beings are provided with talents, which they are allowed to express, whatever level they belong to inside the company, whether at higher levels or down to the workers' level. And last but least, our family chairman replaces his mandate on the line every 5 years, like in a democracy, with a proper election campaign. And I can tell you, they never know before the election whether they will be re-elected or no, which prevents, as you can imagine, which prevents them from being arrogant and from leaving too late. And my last comment is about this plateau sentence, which, Alexis, you may show. Yes, the plow is straight only if the two horses go at the same speed. There is no long-term performance without a strong family cohesion and involvement. And there is no cohesion without performance. And so I join what Isabel and Maher said before about it is possible for a family to go ahead in business, and it is possible for a business to be performant if the family is strongly involved in the business. Thank you very much. Just a last message. This needs perseverance. This is hard work. It needs time. It needs courage. And really, we are not perfect. We just try. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Antoine. And come back full circle, because Farhad Forbes, our chair, was explaining to us that one of our characteristics as family businesses is dealing with paradoxes. And I think, as you were demonstrating, when you are able to work on that and to deal with these paradoxes of both family and business, purpose and profit, and you refine it to a point where there is internal family activism, there is collective purpose, there is family democracy in how the business is run, it leads to a pretty significant and impressive entrepreneurial family that you have built collectively in just a few generations. So thank you. We have about 10 minutes for Q&A and conversation. It's short, but we will have more opportunities in the next week and over the next months to continue the conversation. There's a very specific question to Meher that's coming from the audience, and then I'll come back to Antoine and Isabel on this issue of cross-generational activism and alignment. Meher, there's a question around the situation of migrant workers and informal workers, related to farming, knowing that the person says that family farms produce about 80% of the world's food in value terms. And in your initiative, beyond just bringing them into the formal economy, is there also something around giving them the entrepreneurial tools to become themselves sort of owners or of their own family firm?
Yeah, It's a great question, Alexi. And, we've just started. And so I think we haven't even got to a level of thinking, how do we prevent migration in the first place? And you can people migrate mainly for economical reasons, apart from others, but one of the main reasons is economical. So right now we want to get that economics right. We want to give them this living wage. We want to try and protect them in terms of safety at the workplace. We want gender parity. So right now we're thinking of the 6 outcomes I spoke about, but who knows? I think as we go on, that could come up as something that we could look at.
Thank you for it. It's a long journey, and you started it very fast, but it's a long journey. Coming back to this question of cross-generational dialogue, and we've seen a lot of division in our society. We've also seen blame and shame on a certain number of topics across generations. And Antoine, we're talking about internal activism that you have within your family, and Isabel, you were calling very passionately for all of us to bring our companies and our businesses in looking into that nature capital. Maybe starting with you, Isabel, how do you see the conversation across generations, not only at the Capitals Coalition, but in your family or with some of your next-gen friends? And what would you recommend that we do together to avoid the divide and work together?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of anger and frustration in what I'm going to call my generation, where people feel very much like they've been handed a bad deal, entering the workplace and entering this phase of our lives where there are already a lot of problems that are presumed to have been set up by previous generations. I think that that's not a very helpful way to address the issue. I think that anger, although it can give energy, it mostly is more destructive. And I would just encourage people who are more established in their careers and more further along to really consider that what the young generation brings is a diversity of solutions and a diversity of opinion, and maybe we're coming with ideas that you haven't had before, and that experience maybe is not there, but the energy and the real will to do something about it is there. And if I look across my peers, some people have gone into traditional careers, but the vast majority of people I know are looking for impact in their work, if above anything. And so I think just making space for that is something that's very important, and I'm talking at large here in all businesses.
Sure. Well, thank you, Antoine. Yes, it is indeed what Isabel is referring to, is this, the fact that many of the next generation are full of passion. Sometimes that passion is driven by anger, but it is driven by a real sense of really willing to find solution and make an impact. Now, how do we capture this energy? How do we capture this innovation into our legacy business, into our families, into our family businesses? Sometimes they're not so exciting, appealing, and next gen prefer to go their own way. So how have you worked on that at AFM, at the Mullier family, and how have you managed to capture some of that energy, that shareholders activism, into innovation, new projects, maybe building new businesses in a more sort of impactful and responsible way? You're muted, I think, Antoine. Thank you.
It's a key point. I think I'll talk about my family, obviously, because that's where I have my experience. There are two ways in our family which we try. The first one is, as I said, is to encourage activists to use their anger, as Isabel said, to make pressure on our managing directors. And I think this is the first way. They will tell Auchan managers or Leroy Merlin or Decathlon managers, well, you must do this, you must look at your carbon consumption. You must try to repatriate production in Europe instead of producing only in China, and so on. So this is a way for next generations to have a say. The other one is, and this we've had it for so many years, is when we meet a next gen who is very much in an angle, let's say about hypermarkets and about consumption. We will tell him or her, well, please launch your own business. If obviously they have this character, this will to launch a new business, but please launch it inside our ecosystem. We will help you develop it. We will help you go with your idea, which is not the elder generation's idea. You will launch something which can help the future be better. So that's the way we deal with them. And doing this, it helps us, it helps young generations not to live under the shade of their parents, which is terrible. How can I survive if my mother or my father launched such a huge business as Decathlon? So let me launch my own business. I will go my way. I will go the way which is good for the planet for the next years. And eventually I will become the core business of the family because the family will invest in this new company. So that's the two ways we try to mix generations. And I would add another way, we very often organize learning expeditions to visit places where we have businesses, and we try to mix these generations because we think that you only can love whom you know, and what better than a journey somewhere else to come to know each other, which is very important in an enterprising family, because that's a huge paradox to do business with family members. So that's what I want.
Thank you very much, Antoine. And that's the perfect conclusion to the discussion. We always say at FBN that learning families attract great talent. They attract great talent from within the family and also from outside the family. So it's an encouragement for all of us, for all of you, for all the participants and the audience to continue to learn as a family and encourage, empower next generation to start their own entrepreneurial activities, because as all of you said, and Isabel, you said that yes, we think sometimes that business is part of the problem, but we know that it is an essential part of the solution. So I want to thank all the panelists, our chair Farhad Forbes, Alfonso Leo, Isabel Hoffman, Meher Pudumji, and Antoine Mayo for inspiring us today. I invite you to continue to join us in the virtual room number 7 for additional sessions. We will have in about half an hour a session on how families can accelerate impact through their investment activities and their family offices with great speakers. And tomorrow we'll have more sessions on leadership, on the next generation with our Next Generation Award, and then Wednesday talking about also our collective action on governance and the leveraging philanthropy. Thank you very much, and wishing you a great week, a great family business week at the World Investment Forum. Bye-bye.